On.
So welcome everybody. This is our 21-22 PAEMST webinar that will hopefully give you the information that you need to proceed with nominating either yourself or a coworker. Melissa Mendenhall is the USBE K6 Science Specialist, and my name is Trish French, and I am the K6 Math Specialist. And we are going to go through the process of what PAEMST is. You can see up in the corner, it's the Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. This year is specifically for K-8 science and math teachers. And here is a little description of what it is. You can see on the screen that it is the highest recognition that our teachers can receive for outstanding science, technology, and engineering, mathematics, or computer science. It is funded and sponsored by the National Science Foundation and through the White House Office of Science and Technology. So it has some history here. It goes back to 1983. And the president may recognize up to 108 exemplary teachers each year. As you scroll down, there are 2 teachers that may be nominated and awarded from each of the 50 states, including the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico and the DODEA schools that are overseas, as well as the US territories. Awardees get a pretty generous offering if they receive the award. So there's a certificate signed by the president, a $10,000 award from the National Science Foundation to be used at the awardee's discretion. It's not earmarked for anything special. Awardees get to go to Washington, D.C. for an event that includes an award ceremony, professional development activities, and they get to talk with policymakers on how to improve STEM education. They also get to collaborate with one another and potentially connect with people that they will share ideas with as they continue on through their educational career. Here you can see some examples of people who have been nominated and received their certificates. This is Reginald Duncan. Getting his award. And then there's an example of one of the ceremonies that took place in the National Portrait Gallery. So anyone can nominate a teacher. So it can be a colleague of the teacher, a former awardee, principals, students, superintendent, family members, and friends. Or if you feel so moved, you can nominate yourself. Sometimes we know how hard and we've worked and what our expertise is. So as mentioned previously, K6 teachers, I think I misspoke earlier, it's K6, not K8, for this 2021 and 2022 awardee and nominating season. So here is how we nominate. It's pretty straightforward. If you go to PAEMST.org, and you can see it up there in the corner, then you simply click on nominate a teacher, and it's going to ask for the following pieces of information. So it is helpful to get that ahead of time if it's not a completely familiar person with all of the information there. So your contact information, it's going to ask how you know the teacher, and then it will ask you how you heard about PAEMST. And you can see there the arrow clicks you right over to all of the nominating information. So who can apply? It needs to be a person who is teaching science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and or computer science as a part of his or her contracted teaching responsibilities at the K6 level in a public, including charter or private school. So that's a pretty open opportunity there. The person must be a full-time employee of the school or the school district as determined by the state and the district policies, with responsibilities for teaching students in no less than 50% of the school's allotted instructional time. The person must have had at least 5 years of full-time employment as a K-12 teacher during which science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and/or computer science has been a part of the applicant's teaching duties prior to the 21-22 academic school year. In addition, the applicant must teach in one of the 50 states, the District of Columbia, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, one of the DODEA schools, the U.S. territories as listed there. The person must hold a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution. The person must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident and must not have received the PAEMST award at the national level in any prior competition or category. So if you want to apply, you go to PAEMST.org and click on Begin an Application or Resume an Application, and you can see the steps there. Once again, it's just a click, move forward process.
And that's what you will do after you've been nominated or after you've nominated yourself. Then apply is the next step, and it's easy to find right on the same page.
So once you have followed through on these, you need to complete the nominations, as you can see here, by January 7th, 2022. And then to apply after the nomination, as Melissa said, you need to, the applications are then open and they must be completed by February 6th.
So it's a wonderful, wonderful program. It's not easy. It's a lot of effort, but you also gain a lot from it. To help you learn a little bit about what the experience is like, we have one elementary science awardee and one elementary math awardee. So we'd like to hear from them. First, we'll hear from the science awardee, who is Chris Cayley, and she'll tell us a little bit about what was her experience like. What did she learn from this? And what's been the positive that's come out of her putting in the effort to do this? So Chris, we'd like to welcome you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Your experience.
I am grateful to be able to participate today. And my experience with the Presidential Award for Excellence in Math and Science Teaching was a remarkable opportunity. First, it was an honor to be nominated, and then it allowed me time to focus on something that I was very passionate about. And as a teacher, it's easy to have a lot of passions and not get to invest the time that we want into them. And so this gave me a good reason to work really hard towards my passion. And what I really love doing with my students was taking them, we went to the Jordan River every Friday and collected water quality data for the state. And I had already been doing that for a couple of years with my students, but this encouraged me to really tie it to our science standards, even better than I thought I was. You know, I really had to pull out objectives and standards these were the old standards at the time, and then integrate it with language arts and social studies. So it really gave me an opportunity to focus on that passion of mine and sharing that with the students. And they were citizen scientists that also were learning science, language arts, math, and social studies through the process. Had it not been for that nomination, I probably wouldn't have refined that activity and that field study to that degree. The other thing was that I got to receive feedback. After you apply, you get feedback, and that's really helpful to help your instruction. And you're so reflective through this process as well. And that's why I usually say it's like an incredible professional learning opportunity, because you have to be so reflective in your writing. And I would have other people look at it and then think about it more reflectively. And so that was a great way. I think it just helped me see where my gaps were in my teaching and where my students' gaps were as well. And then, of course, actually being an awardee is remarkable, because you get treated like a rock star as a teacher, which doesn't happen every day at all. That was the big day. And just the trip to DC was so fun, and I just get the chills thinking about it because you're treated so well and you're amongst other teachers with like interest and passion from across the country that you get to spend time talking with and getting to know and learning what they're doing. And we even did lesson shares. And you can, then you end up keeping in touch with these people after the fact as well, which is great. And then I was really fortunate that year that we actually got to work at the National Science Foundation at the new building they had. And we spent a whole day there working on the K-12 STEM strategic plan for our whole nation. So it was an honor to work with policymakers, other teachers, people from higher ed were at that, and we broke into tables. It was a lot of people. And it was really incredible to be, that was the first time teachers had a voice on that strategic STEM plan. And so that was a real honor to be a part of. So I highly encourage you, it's a challenging process. It will take a lot of time. I encourage, if you go for this, to start early, read through the whole application before you get going. And then you can break it down, like have a goal per week, like, and try to set that out. The filming does take time, so give yourself some opportunities to do some filming before your actual one that you'll submit. So your students and you can also get comfortable with that. Anyway, that's a little bit about my experience. And again, it was a complete honor. And I still wear on my lanyard my badge that I'm so proud to have. So
It's a big deal.
That's awesome.
Thank you for sharing that great experience, Chris, and telling us a little bit what it's about, doing jazz hands to say, woo, thank you. So thank you very much. Hey, she rushed back from the dentist just to do this, friends. So thank you, Chris. And I'll let Trish introduce our elementary person.
Yes, this is Rachel Checkett, and she is going to share what her process was like. I'm going to guess that there will be some similarities and, a few differences. So Rachel, let's give you just a few moments to reflect on what was it like and what did you learn and why it was so positive.
Thank you. I like to reflect on the experience, and it's been a little while since I've taken that opportunity to do it. So I was glad to have this invitation. So my experience shaped where I was in my life at that moment. I didn't know who nominated me. And it turns out that somebody had nominated me the previous cycle, and I had not done anything about it. And so the PAEMST system sent me another email for the next cycle. So when I tried to ask them who nominated me, they said that I was a self-nominee. I said, no, I've been getting these emails. So it was kind of a funny experience for me. And it wasn't until sometime after I had gone to DC to receive my award that I discovered who had nominated me. And that was kind of a great experience too, to realize it was, at the time, and actually still currently trying to get finished, I was a doc student, am a doc student, concurrently while teaching. And lo and behold, it was another professor, not in my department, but who knew of me from a colleague and had submitted my name. So that was just an awareness for me now at this level to think of who I could nominate and who it would touch in their experience. So going back now to me as the nominee and how I handled that. I first saw these emails and thought, oh, this is another thing I need to do, right? As a doc student and just an employee in the district, just lots of things like, oh, I gotta do this. I was just trying to stay abreast of everything. And so when I realized what it was, I actually logged in and I was like, oh, this isn't what I've been like putting off, thinking I had to. This is an invitation. I don't have to. And I think I was more interested once I realized I didn't have to do it. It was optional. And it truly was, as Chris mentioned, an experience to refine my practice, make me be more articulate about why I do what I do. And realizing that I had very, very solid answers for those things based off of the standards, based off of other research. And I appreciated that. And funny, when I decided I was going to do this, I decided, okay, I just need to get the film done. That's gonna be the intimidating part. I just need to do it. So the first day I had a student teacher come in my class, like I was meeting her for the very first time. I said, here, I'm handing you the iPad. Film me for the next 30 minutes. And she did. And that's what I used. I trimmed like a couple minutes on each end to literally make it fit the amount. I didn't do anything else to it. And then it took me another month or two, of course, to write about it and think through the process. I knew what I wanted to film because it's something, again, that I'm passionate about. It was teaching place value to first grade Spanish immersion students, and all in Spanish, and that is an option, just so our audience is aware also that you can submit the entire application in Spanish or the video portion, which is what I did. I did a hybrid of the two languages, but knowing that that was something I had already studied and explored was eye-opening. And from there, kind of this fun thing is that since that point, I have now presented that material using this big floor size 100s chart. I've presented it at conferences here in the States. It has shaped some of my dissertation work. And I just find that fascinating, that experience, me just sharing about what I like, not anybody tell me I have to do a certain thing, I got to choose, really has been a springboard for me to go forward. And then talking just a little bit more about each of the steps being like, oh, you're a finalist. Oh, you're getting recognized, you know, here at this dinner, at this, and now, oh, now it's the secret. Like, don't tell anybody, but you're being considered as like the finalist. It was kind of fun. And again, it was so different than just the day-to-day go to work. I love that. I was here. You can count on me to show up. I'll be at work. I'll be working with those students, but to be recognized for it and to have this kind of fun anticipation associated with it was a good experience. And interesting, again, because of my position where I'm working towards being, you know, an academic, and and being recognized for my research or for other important pursuits. This award was not anything associated with it. I mean, it's part of my bio, right? That's part of my application to a certain degree, but largely it was saying, no, you're being recognized for showing up, for knowing and caring about being refined, not just refined, but professional in your practitioner role. And I loved that. I really was like, you know what, I'm a doc student, but so what? I'm being recognized as a practitioner in a first grade classroom. And I needed that because I've had a hard time kind of letting go of practitioner mode, and I want to always be an advocate for that. I got a little derailed when I was starting to say, but the levels literally of suspense, sort of just fun, and then being told, oh, you need to come to DC. Okay, your tickets, get them in like a week. And I was like, I have a 3-month-old baby, and trying to make arrangements for that really did shape the whole experience in a fun and good way. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm leaving. So that's all to just explain that it was a timely thing for me, and it has truly made me think about who to nominate and how it can, if they will, again, optional. It's optional. You can choose to refine your practice. You can choose something you already are interested in and elaborate on it and use it as, again, potentially springboard for future research or a professional development where you'll share with peers and colleagues, whatever that may be. And the other thing was treat yourself well. You know, once you decide you're going to pursue it, go whole hog, go all in, and let it be a boost, because we need boosts. Some of the, again, I'm in the research world right now, and our research about the impact of pandemic on teachers and things is weighty. It's hard to sense sometimes some of the pressures in addition to other pressures that already exist. And so I say, you know, take that moment to celebrate, to say, what am I going to spend this money on? And that was fun to hear from the other colleagues around the nation. I really enjoyed that collaboration, and I enjoyed hearing people's comments about what they were going to spend mine, by the way, got spent on tuition. So not super exciting, but it definitely furthered is furthering my commitment to education and to mathematics education. So, yep, it has been a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to answer additional questions. I personally kind of have this sense of advocacy where I want to reach out to some of our Spanish immersion teachers around the state or other languages who teach mathematics integrated, again, this integration with language. And I would love to inspire them to do to pursue this opportunity. I think it's probably intimidating for them and they might not see it as their like first priority. But if they could get a glimpse of what it is, I believe it would offer them a great opportunity. So thank you.
Oh, Trish, I think you're muted.
Thanks, Rachel. I was trying to avoid background noise. Thank you so much. I would love to see your video, and so I'll have to track that down. And maybe we can get you to a SMEC meeting sometime to present. We would love that. So once again, thank you both very much for your time.
Yes, thank you. Another set of jazz hands for Rachel. Not that you can see it on the record, but they're getting jazz hands. So thank you very much. We really appreciated hearing about your experiences with PAEMST. It is a wonderful program. It also takes some time and some commitment to do, but it's well worth it. Especially I think when you think about how you can fit this in with what you're passionate about, which is one thing that I kind of heard from both of our two awardees. So I think if you can further your refinement of your teaching practice in something you're passionate about, it's a great program to really move you forward. So thank you. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth now about what the application includes. So we'll excuse Chris and Rachel if they want to go, or they can feel free to stay, but they've kind of next process. So they kind of know where it's going. So when we look at the application process, there are components in the application. There's an administrative component, and that's really just getting your background information in. It's saying this is information about me as a teacher, getting your employment verified, getting 3 letters of recommendation, and then turning in a resume that can't exceed 2 pages. If it's over 2 pages, the selection committee has been informed to only read the first 2. So you're going to want to make sure that you cut it down to 2 and have just what you want on it. And then there's some optional demographic just so that they can kind of track who the great teachers are in our nation. So that's the first component, and it's actually pretty simple to take care of. And the next component is the narrative component, and that's going to take a little bit more time. That consists of a written response to 5 different dimensions that PAEMST has determined in outstanding teaching, and then turning in any supplemental materials and citing resources. Along with that, there's a 30-minute video of one of your instructional sessions, and the narrative should go along with that. So the 5 dimensions, the first dimension really looks at mastery of the content. Is what you're teaching appropriate for that grade level, developmentally appropriate, and is it accurate? The second dimension looks at what instructional methods and strategies you're using as a teacher to help students make sense and to learn. The third dimension is about assessment. It really looks at how are you checking on formative assessment throughout the instruction to see what your students are learning and where they're at, and then how do you know if they did learn? So what's your summative assessment? Which then leads us to the fourth dimension on looking at the summative assessment and saying, how did it go for the students? Where are they at? What went well? What do I need to make sure that I change in the future to support students? And maybe what do I need to reteach? And then the fifth dimension is kind of a little bit separate, but really important. It looks at leadership. How are you being a leader in your school, in your district, in your state, possibly in the nation? What are you doing to really support teaching and good teaching practices? So that's a little bit different than just the teaching part. So the guidelines that we have for the supplemental materials and the resources, you can have up to 5 pages of supplemental materials. They may be something like a graphic organizer that you used in your instruction, or it might be samples of student work. Anything that you think will further help the selection committee understand the great job that you're doing as a teacher and the learning that your students are gaining because of this instruction. References cited is a really critical piece. Make sure that you put in, where did you get your information from? What sources are you drawing from? Because we all use great things that are out there. We just need to acknowledge where they came from. Okay, the video, this is, it's not really, I don't consider it the hardest part, but we do need to plan for it. So it needs to go along with your narrative. And it needs to be a one single lesson or class experience. So not spread out and not be more than 30 minutes. It needs to be continuous footage, except for you can have one break. Like you may want to show the beginning setup to instruction, then the students may be doing some kind of task, but then you want to come back at the end and film the debrief. So you may do something like that, or there may be another reason to cut out, you know, just one section, but it needs to be a one instructional setting and one lesson. You also need to use the same camera or source to record it, not two different sources. You need to make sure that you've checked and that you've adhered to video requirements for your district or school. You need to make sure that maybe you've gotten parental releases and that the students that are on camera have permission from their parents to be on camera. This is new this year. It needs to not exceed 3 gigabytes, and it needs to be of quality that we can see your face and the students' faces and any visible board work or anything seat work that you're showing. In the past, people have kind of had blurry videos, and that makes it really hard for the selection committee to really look at that and make decisions. Also, you need to be careful that the voices are audible. So you might want to check in advance and try to say, is this recording device that I have going to really have some decent sound quality so that people can hear what we're actually saying. As far as the timeline, the nomination timeline, we've talked about this briefly and prior to this slide. Nomination deadline is January 7th. Then the whole application with those 3 components needs to be completed by February 6th, at which point the state selection committee will convene to go through all of the different applications and select up to 3 for either the math and computer science or the science and engineering sections. That then those finalists, state finalists, go on to the national selection committee. And from the national selection committee, they'll look at whatever each state has submitted and say, from those 3, this is the awardee that we want. And the 2 that you just listened to, they were those awardees for different years. So then at the White House's discretion, they will announce the awardees and on that national level. And hopefully it will be early August to September of the following year. So just a few important changes to remember, that they've combined math and computer science and science and engineering. So those, there are still just 2 categories, but there are 2 different kind of disciplines within the categories. You can only have 1 video break. And you also, this is new as of just 2 years ago, you can submit an addendum. If you end up being one of the 3 state finalists, you can add additional information in response to the feedback that you get from the state selection committee. So that's a new piece, and that's limited to up to 5 pages. So it's pretty exciting. It's a great event. We hope that you'll consider either nominating yourself or someone else, or if you've been nominated, that you'll take this opportunity to really refine your practice and grow with this wonderful experience. Please feel free to contact Trish or I at the Utah Department of Education. You can find her under elementary mathematics and me under elementary science. We would be happy to answer any questions. Trish, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I would just like to thank everybody for their time, and I want you to really think about some of the high quality educators that are out there that would be deserving of this truly great honor.
Well, thank you for coming, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.